Mr. Mazzi, thank you very, very much for giving us the tremendous honor of coming to the Institute for Cultural Diplomacy on such a historic occasion, 25 years anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall. And I think it's a great occasion for us to reflect on what does this mean, actually, the Berlin Wall coming down. Do we live in a world without walls? And how can cultural diplomacy, and in this sense also I think the fashion industry, maybe play a role at actually building bridges and transcending borders? So we're really happy to have you here as a representative of Prada and as someone who I would argue is actually quite engaged in your daily work with Prada in cultural diplomacy. I would love to ask you a few questions to follow up on the excellent presentation that you just gave. First of all, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the economic situation in Italy. Given the current situation, how do you think that Italian companies and enterprises from all industries can break into the global markets?
You know that Italian companies on average are little mid-sized company. Now, this is maybe a disadvantage in order to approach an international market like is today the market. The market is just global. Of course, a company like Prada is not so little, no? It's big enough to manage by itself the market, but many of our companies are not big enough in order to approach the investment that are necessary in order to be present on a global scale. It could be very important, or it could be, let me say, necessary that our government would develop a program in order to support our companies to move abroad. This is a statement very easy to tell and very difficult to put in place. No, I am conscious. But in any case, I think that our Italian experience in globalization is not the best. If I make a comparison with other countries, not simply England, that they have a very old tradition in internationalization of their economy, but also Germany, no? And France. Maybe also Spain, no? They are doing something better than Italy. So I don't think that it is impossible to improve our, let me say, initiative, political initiative in order to support our companies abroad.
Excellent. I think what's special about Prada as a global company, really engaged in actually many aspects of cultural diplomacy, is the fact that it's really coming from the cultural field. My next question, given your experience in the fashion industry, how do you think that, let's say, in the sense, fashion, style, and art have positively impacted cultural relations? And how do you think that this serves as a tool in building bridges and actually bringing individuals together?
Yes. I agree that for us is, let me say, very natural to consider art and culture, no, like a background or like a basement, no, for our activity, because style is something immediately related with art trends, no? This is normal, no? You know that the design is an idea developed, let me say, less than 100 years ago, no? Developed by artists, no? Because when artists start with the pop art, no? The pop art was just art made with industrial product, with common objects of the life of every day. And this was, let me say, the foundation of design, like a, let me say, tool for industry. So, let me say, our Prada Foundation 2 years ago organized an exhibition in Venice regarding this heritage of artists in establishing the new trend of art for everybody. It was maybe not exactly the result, art for everybody, because also a very simple piece of art of Andy Warhol, no, is very expensive in any case, but we could provide everybody for some, let me say, piece of industrial product that are inspired by Andy Warhol, no? Or Longchamp, or people, artists like them. So this is for us very obvious, and I think that art, like music, not only picture and sculpture, like literature, can be the base not simply for inspiration of luxury product production, but could be also, let me say, the tool in order to establish relationships with our culture, with our country. So, of course, for me, it's very easy to agree that culture and art is the best, let me say, approach for international relationship, also in diplomacy.
Okay, that's a very strong statement, which I think is very well received, of course, at the Institute. And I think you actually partially answered the next question that I wanted to ask you, especially with your reference to the Prada Foundation, which I think is a very fascinating example of how a for-profit company is really engaging also in the wider public and the field of culture. Now, fashion constitutes an important part of the expression of cultural background. What role can a prestigious company such as Prada play in utilizing this in order to facilitate intercultural understanding? And to what extent does the cultural exchange of design ideas play a part in Prada's fashion?
It's a question very easy or very complicated, I don't know. But let me clarify one point. When we speak about art or interest in art, it's not enough to be passionate in terms of collector, no? Because there are many, let me say, rich people that became collector of pieces of art because they like them. This is right, but this is not what I mean when I speak about relationship among art and style for luxury firm. If we want to, let me say, improve our, let me say, knowledge, our know-how, our capability in develop a new design, we need to establish a relationship more deep with art. No? We need to work with them. We can't expect to be artists ourselves, of course, but we have to work with them. For instance, to organize exhibition, but team exhibition, not just exhibition of big pieces of art. This is not the case, not a museum, because to be a museum is very important task, but is not what we need in order to improve our know-how, our knowledge. What we need is work with artists to understand what is their, let me say, their mind, what is their new ideas, and what they want to do, and trying to do something together in order to, let me say, share their soul.
Perfect. My final question has two parts. The first question is a simple question, but I think with a very maybe complex answer, and not only one answer. What is cultural diplomacy for you?
Cultural diplomacy for me, I don't know, because again, we are in the case where we have to establish the exact meaning of this definition. But cultural diplomacy, if I can guess something about this expression, I can imagine that we can establish a relationship with foreigner people, regarding art. And this is, let me say, this gives us the possibility to speak about something without fighting against. Let me tell you an example of a cultural diplomacy. We are organizing the exhibition for the opening of the new museum in Milan of contemporary art. But in order to make something different, to make something more international, and in the occasion of the Expo in Milano with the presence of a lot of foreign people, we are organizing an exhibition of antique art. And we went to Tehran, in Iran, to ask them to rent, to give us for exhibition a very old piece of art that they have in the Tehran Antique Museum. This is, let me say, not a Persian piece of art, but is a Greek piece of art. And it's very interesting to tell the story of this piece of art. This piece of art is a marble monument that Greek gifted to Persian people for the peace when they fighted against, you remember, before Roman Emperor. And this piece of art that is partially destroyed, without head, without hands, without legs, is the body of Penelope. The body of Penelope that the old Greek gifted to Persian is a very symbolic meaning, because is the pain of the woman for the war. For the peace, they gifted them with this piece of art. At the moment, they have what is what they can, the rest of this marble piece of art, and we asked them to provide for the time of exhibition this piece of art, because we consider this, let me say, a diplomacy occasion with Tehran, with Iran, that at the moment the Western country are treating very toughly, because we block their financial activity, trading activity. They answered yes. So this initiative in art diplomacy, made by just a little firm, was successful.
Well, not such a little
I
firm,
can
but
suggest you something similar.
beautiful. No, I think it's a very powerful example where actually you were able to do something in cultural diplomacy that is actually impossible in the political framework of the current situation. And it's very important. I think if we don't talk to each other, if we don't have these opportunities for exchange, what's the alternative? And I think you can have as many embargoes as you want, although that's not going to bring us closer to peace. So that's maybe, again, an opportunity where Prada is actually, again, serving the role of cultural diplomat.
Let me say, cultural diplomacy is not a new initiative.
Of course.
It's an initiative already put in place by ancient Greek
I fully
people.
agree. I fully agree. And I think really this interruption in the 20th century where governments took cultural diplomacy as a tool is a very short interruption. It's a much longer history. The second part of my final question is the following. As you know, Prada has over 250 stores worldwide. What role does culture...
How many? 600.
600, all right. So my colleagues didn't do the correct counting. So over 600. It's true, if you keep in mind also the Middle East as well as Asia. What role does cultural diplomacy play in presenting your brand effectively in such a wide variety of markets? And what challenges exist in this respect? And what are the benefits, or what benefits can be gained from the consideration of cultural diversity across the fashion world?
No, also from this point of view, it's true that cultural diplomacy is a tool very important sometimes. For instance, in Qatar, we had the opportunity to establish our full-owned subsidiary that was the first in their experience for, let me say, retail distribution, before they denied this possibility to everybody. But I think that we could obtain this kind of, let me say, possibility just because of the relationship among our main shareholder, Ms. Miuccia Prada, and the wife of the Sultan in Qatar, were in a very good relationship for art passion that they share together. So again, another occasion of cultural diplomacy that constituted the base for a business development.
Great. Well, thank you very, very much. I've learned a lot from this conversation, and I think it really underlines the potential for the private sector to engage also in cultural diplomacy. We very much look forward to staying in dialogue with you, hopefully to working with you, and thank you once again for having come to the Institute and also for the discussion.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a very pleasure.
It was an honor to meet you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.